Massive Avalanche free agency update as a reporter reveals new free agency targets that the Avs front office can explore during this offseason and try to sign within their cap hit to really solidify the best possible roster for the Avs this coming 2025-2026 season. All of these reports around these free agents have implications as to whether or not these players would fit in well with the Colorado Avalanche and how they would really help this roster be the most optimal that it can possibly be and help us do the best that we possibly can in the playoffs next season. We're going to dive into all of the rumors regarding some of these names that the Avs can potentially target this offseason, around what their potential cap hit would be in relation to how much money the Avs have left to spend, and just what the implications of these potential signings are and how these players would fit into the Colorado Avalanche roster this coming season. Welcome into Avalanche Digest, everyone. Mark Robinson, happy to be with you. Excited to dive into some of these free agency rumors with free agency season right around the corner on July 1st. Things are really starting to heat up in the NHL. Lots of crazy signings, lots of crazy trades, and we're hoping that the Colorado Avalanche starting to see some of that action with, like I said, July 1st coming right around the corner. Before we dive into today's video regarding the free agency rumors, I want to quickly remind everybody to make sure you're subscribed to Avs Digest. Only 10% of you are subscribed that are tuning into our videos on a daily basis, in comparison to 89% of you who are tuning into Avs Digest daily and not subscribed. So make sure that you're subscribed to the best possible place for all Colorado Avalanche rumors, news, updates, opinions, everything you can possibly need to know about the Colorado Avalanche. You can find it right here on Avalanche Digest. Without further ado, let's dive into some of these free agency names that are being rumored, as far as, names that the Avs can potentially target and names that can potentially be really strong for Colorado in the next coming season, and names that can hopefully fit into the roster and help the Avs be the best possible team that they can be in the Central Division and just in the league in general as they try to make another case for a strong playoff run in the near future. So the first one is Anthony Mantha of the Calgary Flames. He only played 13 games this last season, scored 4 goals and 3 assists for 7 points. He had a season-ending knee injury after that 13th game. That's why he only played 13 games. So injury obviously has been an issue for him recently. This is an interesting case because Anthony Mantha, a little bit of an older player, he'll be 31 in October. He is a strong offensive player. He's a really, really big skater, really, dangerous person to have on the ice if you're playing against him. But he's in a weird spot in his career right now where he's kind of stalled out a little bit, and he's been bugged with injuries and other career-related issues that has essentially not allowed him to play to his full potential. So what's interesting about Anthony Mantha is he's kind of in a place where the Avs can probably get him at a discount because he's going to want to sign with a team that's going to almost guaranteed make the playoffs and make a really strong run in the playoffs. And so he's going to be willing to take a smaller discount and potentially come into this Avalanche team and, try to play the best hockey that he's played in his career at the place that he's at. Because obviously his, progression and his ability to improve as a player has been a little bit stalled with the consideration of his injury and just the issues that he's had with his career in the past. Mantha signed a 1-year contract with the Flames last summer, but like we said, he only played in 13 games before that season-ending knee injury. He's only played in 70 or more games in a single season twice in his entire career. That also plays into the fact that he's likely going to have to take a league minimum deal or even do a PTO. And so if the Avs can try to snag him at a cheaper price or even have him do that PTO, this is more of a situation where the Avs don't need to try to overpay him to appeal him and draw him into Colorado. He's going to want to play wherever he can get signed, and the Avs are a very appealing franchise to play for. So to potentially get Anthony Mantha would be really big for Colorado. Take a look at his career and kind of where he's played in the past. He played for the Red Wings in the 2018-19 all the way through the 2020-21 season. He got to 67 games, 25 goals, 23 assists in that 2018-2019 season. So you can see the potential there to have, a 50-plus point season. It just is a matter of if he can stay healthy and if he can get over kind of that half season mark and actually, get in there and play games and be an offensive asset from game one all the way to the end of the season. So that's the first free agency target that the Avs could potentially explore. And like I said, it's an interesting one because we could potentially get him at a really, cheap price, at a good discount. And he could be a massive help to kind of the offense and just what the Avs are trying to do looking ahead to the, next coming NHL season. Second one is a name that's pretty well known around the league. It's Anthony Beauvillier, who's currently on the Washington Capitals. He played in 81 games this season, had 15 goals and 10 assists, totaling for 25 points. The 15 goals, that's obviously a really strong point to be able to score, over 10 goals, playing in kind of like a 2-3 line area. He was also traded to the Capitals near the deadline. He was originally playing for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's a little bit younger, 28-year-old winger. He's played for 6 teams over the past 3 seasons, and he hasn't been able to kind of find his groove and find his balance. But to try to get him on an Avalanche roster where he could mesh with some of these strong players and just really add to the overall depth that the Avs have, it could be massive for, everything that the Avs are trying to do as far as offensive production goes, and just as far as, being successful in the league is for the Colorado Avalanche. Obviously, he needs to, do a little bit more as far as offense goes to only get, 10 assists in 81 games played. Kind of crazy. Just has to pick up that offensive speed a little bit. Take a look at his career as well. Started out with the New York Islanders, played a lot of seasons for them, all the way up until the 2021-22 season. He reached, kind of that 18 to 20 goal mark in the 2018-19 and the 2019-2020 season. And then since then, he hasn't really found kind of his offensive groove quite yet. He stalled out with the Blackhawks, only had, obviously didn't play as many games, in that 2023-24 area, only playing like in the 40-ish range of games. But if he can somehow pick up the pace on offense and like spark some sort of an offensive firepower, I think that playing with players on like a 3 or a 4th line, some of the players that we have on our roster as far as the Colorado Avalanche go, I think it could help him kind of find his offensive groove and potentially make him a really appealing free agent for the Avs to target. And it's also someone who, once again, is trying to kind of make a case for himself in the league, hasn't been doing as well offensively, isn't getting as much attention anymore. And so we could get him at a slightly smaller price because with only a little bit of cap left, the Avs have to be really careful about how much money they delegate to each player that they sign. Also considering that the fact that they have a few UFAs that they have to properly deal with as well, looking ahead as far as signing and free agency goes. Last one that the Avs could potentially target is Tomas Nosek of the Florida Panthers. This one, definitely an interesting one, and there's a reason that I think he could be the best out of all 3. You look at his regular season statistics in the 2024-25 season, played 59 games, only had 1 goal and 8 assists for 9 points total. But the Florida Panthers obviously coming off of a big Stanley Cup championship win, and he played a big part in that. He was a huge kind of 3-4 line player, and he was able to play in 16 of the games that the Florida Panthers won. 16 out of the games that the Florida Panthers won and would ultimately take home the Stanley Cup. And he was able to produce offensively. I think he had something like 3 goals, somewhere in that realm, playing for the Panthers this offseason. He's obviously a little bit older as well, 32. But if you could find a place for Tomas Nosek on kind of the 3rd, maybe 4th line, I think that his veteran skill level and most importantly, his ability to produce in the playoffs could be really helpful for Colorado, because some of the biggest issues that the Avs have experienced in the past is signing players, seeing them produce, and then seeing them go completely blank in the playoffs and seeing them go completely quiet. We've been talking about this issue with Marty Necas and how we acquired him in the massive Rantanen deal. And now he was over a point per game throughout the remainder of the season playing with Colorado. But then when we got to the playoffs, he was very quiet and wasn't able to produce as much. So a player that's a little bit older and has that playoff experience, that Stanley Cup victory experience, that is, in Tomas Nosek, that could be very interesting to see how he kind of meshes with the Colorado Avalanche roster and just what he could potentially do. Hopefully in the regular season we can see him produce and we can see him do well. but more notably, how could he produce for the Avs in the playoffs, and what could he help the Avs do as far as playoff success goes? That could be a really interesting target for him as well. And he was around a league minimum deal for the Panthers as well. So if we could get him on a short-term, inexpensive deal, it could be an interesting target for the Colorado Avalanche. As I've talked about already, free agency season right around the corner. We're already seeing some crazy trades and some crazy signings happen. July 1st is when things are going to really start to heat up and pick up. And these names are just to name a few of, some of these lower costing free agents that the Avs can look at and target and, potentially add to their roster to try to really build the deepest roster that they possibly can heading into the 2025-26 season. Very excited for July 1st. Have it coming right around the corner. We'll see what the Avs are going to do in free agency offseason. For now, thanks so much for joining us today on Avalanche Digest. Appreciate everybody's support. Have a good one.